Welcome to part 3 of Am I Psychic? In this video, I want to give you some additional things to look for. I want to expand on some points I made in videos 1 and 2. You won't want to miss this. So welcome to the channel. If you're new here, hey there. This is a frequently asked question video on request by most of the people who watch this channel. We talk about this a lot. Am I psychic? Do I have intuitive capabilities? Is this a gift I have? I teach a lot of classes that talk about this. We talk about North Node. We talk about the mission you're here in this life to do, and other kinds of stuff. But I really wanted to make these 3 videos, or this little series of videos, because there were some specific points, specific questions that I could answer, and I wanted to share them with you. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. If you're here to figure out if you are psychic, this is the series of videos for you. I did part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was really about placements of planets. It was really about, moon in Cancer and a water sign, things like that. Part 2 was about the aspects, about how planets talk to each other at angles and how they help each other or how they, constrict each other. In this video, I want to talk about a few things that sort of don't fit in those categories. I am going to talk a lot more about Neptune. I'm going to talk about Jupiter, and I'm also going to talk about some planets that may be unaspected in your chart. So we'll get to all of this. I'll explain all of this as we go. But first up, I want to talk about Jupiter. Now, I have not talked about Jupiter in this series at all, okay? The reason I want to talk about Jupiter is that whatever Jupiter, if Jupiter is in a psychic house, if Jupiter is in a water sign, if Jupiter is in one of those places, it expands your capabilities, okay? So if Jupiter is in Sagittarius, if you have this in your birth chart, take a look at your birth chart. If you see your planet Jupiter in Sagittarius, that means you have the gift of prophecy. Your intuition is a predictive kind of intuition. And that's different. Like, a lot of people can have intuitions about what's going on right now. Jupiter in Sagittarius about what's going on then. Okay, so that's a big one. The next one is Jupiter in Aquarius. And that is about being a visionary. So as you know, on this channel, we talk a lot about moving into the age of Aquarius, okay? And any kind of Aquarius placement that I've talked about in the previous 2 videos, it really is about expanding innovation, right? It's about being the receptacle of ideas that are coming through the universal unconscious. And the Aquarius energy here, specifically with Jupiter in Aquarius, you're able to expand on those ideas. You're able to bring those ideas to market. You're able to, make things happen with them and get a group of people together and let's all do it together. So that's Jupiter in Aquarius. And Jupiter in Pisces is a different kind of visionary. A Jupiter in Pisces is someone who is a visionary in terms of the arts, in terms of, this is somebody who might be, a poet. This might be somebody who is a songwriter, who's, of a very high level. So I remember the story about Glenn Fry. I don't know if he's Jupiter in Pisces or what, but it reminded me, it sounded very Jupiter in Pisces to me when I heard it. That he in the 70s, before, when he and the Eagles were putting out Hotel California and all of those albums that were, generationally important. He used to talk about driving on the Pacific Coast Highway. And mind you, for those of you who were born in the 90s, in the 70s, there was no, we didn't have phones, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any kind of interactivity in any way, any technology, personal technology or anything like that. So he's driving on the Pacific Coast Highway, and he used to say that he would get full songs downloaded to him. And he'd be stuck in traffic, and by the time he got home, he'd forget the song. And so finally this happened a bunch of times, and he had a dream, and in the dream, the voice, maybe it was God, maybe it was his angel, saying, "Carry a pencil and paper with you, please." Right? I just was like, that's hilarious, right? So Glenn Fry talks about that. I also heard Maya Angelou, poet laureate, talk about being a child in the cotton fields and picking cotton and feeling a poem coming on her like a freight train. And she would like run for the house. She would run for the house in order to have a pencil in her hand by the time that poem got to her. And these are things that are fully baked by the time they get to you, which most people's intuition is not like this. This is extraordinary. And she got into the house and she grabbed a pencil, and one time she had to pull the poem back in backwards, word by word by word. All right. That's what I'm talking about here when Jupiter really expands your capability. In Sag, Aquarius, and Pisces, this is major stuff. Jupiter in a couple of houses is also major stuff. So Sagittarius is the ruler of the ninth house. So as you might imagine, Jupiter in the ninth house is also very prophetic. Okay. Jupiter in the third house, the house of communication. Your intuition is a level above other people, and it is about being a messenger. It is about being someone who can grab messages, and it can be something very simple as like new ideas coming through. Okay, but whatever that does, Jupiter in that third house really expands your ability to receive messages and communicate them. And Jupiter in the eighth house is also expanding on the psychic abilities, going deep into the unknown. This may be about UFOs. This may be about secrets, right? This may be about past lives, things like that. That's what happens in the eighth house. It's things that are. I can imagine that the family in Poltergeist were connected in some way, Jupiter in the eighth house, because they were living on top of a graveyard, right? They were living on top of a graveyard, and it all came up, and they were there as the channel for that information, unwittingly though they were. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to talk about today is Jupiter, and its placement really expands, especially in those locations and with those signs. The number two thing I want to talk about today, whenever you're seeing this video, is something that I want to attribute to Bill Tierney, his work, Dynamics of Aspect Analysis. We were talking about aspects in the second video. That's about the angles that planets are talking to each other, and they may be, easy going, like the trines and the sextiles and the conjunctions. The energy flows easily, or the squares and the oppositions. It might be tension. There might be stress in that connection. But if you have yesterday in the second video, I talked a lot about Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. These are three planets very far out, okay, in our solar system. They impact us generationally. This is not the reason that the Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars planets are personal planets is because they're really close to us. And each individual combination of those based on your birth time and your birth month and your birth year and your birthday and your birth location is very specific to you, okay? But with these generational planets so far out, they move so slowly that, you can have, hundreds of thousands of people born with the same degree of Uranus in Scorpio and things like that. So this one and this point and the next point is going to be expanding a little bit on that idea from the second video. So what Bill Tierney talks about is Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. I talked about the aspects in the second video of what they might be talking to and how that might indicate psychic ability. He says that if there are no aspects to your Uranus, your Neptune, or your Pluto, so it doesn't have to be all three of those planets having no aspects, but if one of them has no aspects, meaning like you go in and you look at all of the things that are talking to each other in your chart, in your birth chart, right? You see like Moon conjunct Venus and Sun conjunct Mars and, Sun opposition, whatever. You see all that and you go down the list and you're like, I don't see Uranus there at all, or I don't see Neptune or Pluto there. There's not any kind of closeness or opposition or anything like that with those planets. That's unusual, okay? And they may operate, that what this indicates, because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are the really psychic planets, it may indicate that your psychic ability is, number one, off the charts. And number two, that it operates in a totally unconscious way. So what that means is you may not be somebody who actively goes and develops your psychic ability, or you may not be aware of it or what it is. You just may think this is just who I am and this is just how I don't know. A lot of people who are really unconscious about psychic capability may have this. They're not really interested in going to check it out. It's not something that they're bothered by or interested in. They just have it. And for some people, okay, so this could operate in a very unconscious way, meaning you could just be psychic and moving through the world thinking everybody else is like this, okay? Or it can be really extraordinary where you're plugged in to this unlimited supply of cosmic energy, is how he says it, cosmic power. So if you look at your birth chart, if you have no aspects to Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, that can be a big deal. I want you then to take a look at what's in the 12th house, because the 12th house is the house of unconscious behavior, and see what's in the 12th house. If there's no planets in the 12th house, what sign is ruling that house? So look around the edge of your chart and, a Gemini, is it Sagittarius? What is it? Because that will tell you sort of the energy through which your psychic ability may show up, and you may not be paying any attention to it. So if you're Gemini in the 12th house, let's say, that's the energy of communication, of being a channel, or being, so you just might be somebody who blurts a lot and says a lot of stuff. And it may be very uncomfortable for your family, or maybe you may be doing stuff that's like, or saying stuff that you're like, I don't know where this is coming from, or whatever. And it can be just feeling like a very disconnected feeling. So take it one step further and look and see what houses you have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in, especially if they're unaspected. They don't have, it's not, Neptune opposition Mars. You don't have any of that. You don't see any of that in your chart. Okay, that can indicate a very highly advanced level of psychic ability, but you may not be able to get to it in this life. It may be because of past life karma that it's kind of buried for you. Okay, that's a really interesting one. All right, that's number two. All right, so in the previous video, in part two, I talked quite a bit about Pluto, and I talked quite a bit about Uranus, which is kind of a different way of being psychic. It's more of a visionary kind of thing, and less, connecting with the dead or channeling. I want to talk more about Neptune right now. And what I just said in that previous piece about unaspected Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, what I was talking about there was the generational nature of these planets. They're really super far out, so they don't move very quickly at all. All right. So I want to go through some dates here, and having Neptune in a particular sign can indicate this psychic ability. And it's interesting because this is generationally psychic. So what that means is, well, let me just tell you. So people born from 1957 to 1970 have Neptune in Scorpio, okay? And many psychics are born in that time period. It really does depend on the rest of your chart and how it's all configured, but the capability for a lot of very powerful psychics to be was there with Neptune and Scorpio, 1957 to 1970. There was a lot of interest that gives the flavor of that generation, or the flavor of the people born during that time, very interested in the metaphysical world, very interested in UFOs and things that are unable to be explained by traditional means. Okay, so that's very interesting. The next move it makes is, Neptune in Virgo. I don't have the dates on this one, but I should look it up. Neptune in Virgo is really the able to heal psychically. Wow. So if you have Neptune in Virgo, Virgo is about healing, health and wellness and things like that. Someone with Neptune in Virgo can heal psychically. Interesting, right? From 1970 to 1985, Neptune is in Sagittarius. And this at this time period, those born at that time, Neptune and Sagittarius, this is about being prophetic, being able to really develop clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, all of the clairs, developing all of them, and being, this is the gift of prophecy. So I'm making the distinction that psychic can be in the present moment or can be about the past. If to truly have prophetic psychic ability means something connected to Sagittarius, something connected to the ninth house. That is about seeing the future, okay? And that's different than someone who is psychic in a way where they can tell what's going on right now, or they can tell stuff happening in the world even though they're not there. They could tap into energies that are floating around, right? They can tap into that. This placement, Neptune and Sagittarius, is more about the gift of prophecy. So, you can say, this is somebody who walks up to someone and says they're pregnant. This is somebody who, well, no, that's actually a different kind. That's actually the kind of Neptune and Scorpio, right? That's the Neptune and Scorpio. Neptune and Sag is like, don't get on that plane. Okay, don't get on that plane. Don't go to that conference, please. Or you're going to meet somebody on this vacation that's going to be very important to your life. That is the gift of prophecy, of looking forward. So whenever you're trying to figure out if someone's gift of psychic ability has what it has to do with, look to ninth house and Sagittarius to see whether it's like future focused. Okay. So some of you may be thinking, well, a psychic just means I can tell what's going to happen. Not really. Being psychic has a lot of different flavors, as you can notice here. Okay. In 1985, Neptune moved into Capricorn. So people born from 1985 to 2000, you can see it's like taking 15 years, right? 15 year. So Neptune moved into Capricorn, and in this placement, these are people born with a psychic ability to implement things on a practical level. These are great problem solvers. Okay, these people can really do it. That's their psychic gift, is they just know the answer to a practical problem. Okay, so that's Neptune and Capricorn. These many advanced souls were born between 85 and 2000 with this ability to solve problems, and damn, do we need that, right? We need that. Then moving in Neptune and Aquarius in the year 2000. So between 2000 and 2015, so millennials here, these people are very interested in psychic phenomena, adventurous. They create a lot of innovation and will support a lot of innovation and things. So they're okay. They're cool with their world changing a lot. And it's because of this Neptune in Aquarius, right? This is the innovation piece I was talking about. That's Uranian in nature. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And then finally, Neptune in Pisces, that moved in 2015 to 2030. So we're not even there yet, right? These people are mystical. These people are the people who are going to be able to help us bridge the 3D and the 5D. Okay, I believe these are crystal children, capable of attaining harmony between the 3D and the 5D world. That's pretty amazing. And it's mostly because of their ability to tap into the energies of the time. They're very, open and transparent. That's why they're called crystal children. So you can see, they're able to see through stuff, able to work with current energies. And they're also, they know the importance of harmony. And so this group of Neptune and Pisces, Neptune in its home space, 12th house, Pisces is the home to the 12th house, feels very comfortable, right? And it's like we're coming back around to the 12th house. So that's the final house. And it's in there, it's Neptune and Pisces now, 2015 to 2030. That's when we're really going to see the ability to bridge the 3D and the 5D. Those born in that time are going to be the primary drivers of that initiative, so that they will be the peacemakers. They will be the people who are able to communicate and draw people together. They'll be able to intuitively understand what's necessary for our society. So these people born 2015 to 2030, Neptune and Pisces, super duper psychic. Number 4, I want to talk about, I'm moving way over to a different part of astrology, and I'm going to talk about trines. I'm going to talk about grand trines. So grand trines show psychic ability when they're in the element of water. So when you're looking at your chart, a lot of times after you show, they show, this is astro-charts.com. They'll show your, zodiacal wheel. They'll show all the aspects, the angles, right? Moon, square, sun, or something like that. And then down further in that report, they'll talk about, hey, these are unusual patterns that are being created by your chart. And a grand trine is when 3 planets form a triangle, okay? And it's all of the same element, okay? That's what makes it grand trine. Forms this triangle. And when it's in when they're all 3 in water signs, it's called the psychic trinity. Okay, so this really elevates your psychic ability. It elevates your capability of being super duper sensitive and being able to be aware of this. It's not subconscious, it's something that is right in your face. And when you have this grand water trine, if it does include Uranus in it somehow, and Uranus and Neptune, because we've been talking about those as very psychic planets, that's going to elevate it even more. So take a look and see if you have this grand trine. It needs to be a grand water trine. They need to all be in 3 planets in a triangle. They need to all be in water signs. Okay, so you may have like if you have Pluto in Cancer and you have Mars or something in Scorpio, and you have your North Node right in Pisces, then that's a grand water trine. It doesn't have to be with Pluto, Uranus, or not Aquarius, Pluto, Uranus, or Neptune, but damn, if it is, that really elevates your psychic ability. So watch out for that. That's number 4, a grand water trine. The final thing I want to talk about in this series, and there is a lot more to this. I've just been touching on these points very lightly just to give you some sense of, go back and look at your chart and see which of these signs are available to you, or which of these aspects are showing up in your chart. The 5th thing I want to talk about, of course, Mary Jo talks about the North Node. Okay, I talked a little bit about it in the 2nd video, but I want to just reiterate a little bit that there are certain houses that are considered psychic. So if you have your North Node in the 8th house, this opens the door to astral travel. It opens the door to the psychic world. This can be about talking to the dead. I think I mentioned this in the previous video. And if the stronger placement of this is in the 8th house, this North Node in the 8th house, especially if it's in a water sign. Just saying. It can be in other signs and it doesn't have to be in a water sign for it to be psychic. But North Node in 8th house is psychic, okay? Whatever sign it's in. But man, if it's in Sagittarius, Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, if it's in Aquarius, big time psychic, okay? If the North Node is in the 9th house, again, we talk about 9th house in Sagittarius as prophetic. This is the ability to see the future. So this is someone who could, Edgar Cayce was he would go under in these past life regressions, and he would prophesize, okay? Nostradamus, right? These kinds of things, real prophecy. 20 years from now, you're going to, meet each other on a street corner, and this is what's going to happen, and you're going to start Apple Computer, right? Like this, that's the kind of thing that is prophetic. Okay, so if North Node's in 9th house, especially if it's in water sign or Scorpio or Sag or Aquarius, then that's a very mystical, visionary type of placement. Okay, North Node in the 12th house, this is called the unconscious psychic. Okay, the unconscious intuitive. And the reason it is because it may be difficult for you to access your capabilities. 12th house is the house of karma, past life karma. So there might be something in your past life that is blocking you from accessing your psychic ability. So something good to do here to work on this is to learn more about your Chiron, your wounded healer. That may have some kind of connection here. You got to be a little bit of a detective here to figure out how come this is blocking. I definitely recommend past life regression. I mean, I brought up Edgar Cayce. He was someone who did past life regression. Dolores Cannon about QHHT therapy. Um, you know, do past life regression, because what past life regression will show you is lives that you lived that created karma that are now impacting your life now. Okay, so that's a really amazing thing for you to look at, and something that can like open up your psychic abilities. So on the channel, we are doing a past life regression in April. Just happened so far to see, right? It just happens to be that you're here watching this and we're doing that. So if you want to take advantage of that, please jump on. You know, the attendance is limited, so please do that. The link is below. Also, this is something that you might want to in the meantime, or if you're watching this after April 2021, likely we're going to do a lot more of this, but you may want to start working with doing meditations and regressions. There's stuff on YouTube that you can do that might help you do it. Get back to past lives that will be shown to you that have some relevance, okay, as to what's going on in this life. I feel like with 12th house North Node, this is something that's kind of on your path to do, because you may have some significant past life karma that's blocking your ability to access this gift. Okay? Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. If you have any questions, or if you have other videos you'd like me to do, these are all frequently asked question videos. So I am really listening to what you have to say and what you want to know about. So please drop a comment below and let me know if there's some other kind of psychic phenomena or ways of looking at your astrology chart that you're interested in knowing about. Okay? Until then, much love, my darlings.